Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today we're coming to you live from the Figma studios here in San Francisco. I'm with Jake Alba. Jake, how you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Thanks for having me, or should I say thanks for me having you.
I'm super excited to be here because, one, I've never seen the Figma offices. They're very cool. You get to see this wall, everyone, but believe me, the rest of the walls are also very cool. So, so Jake, for folks who aren't familiar with you and your work, do you want to give us a little bit of a background on who you are and what you do?
Yeah, great. So I'm Jake. I've been in the web industry since about 2010. I went to school for design, but then transitioned to front-end web development. Spent 3 years working at CodePen, which that community is like responsible for my career.
Yes.
But did software engineering, but then about almost 2.5 years ago, transitioned over to this role at Figma, where I'm a developer advocate. So telling developer stories internally as much as I am externally, trying to help evolve the Figma product as it kind of becomes something that developers are getting a lot more out of.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, about the idea of being sort of like a creative engineer, like a creative coder.
Yeah.
And you've just been kind of rattling off all these amazing ideas about interesting projects, fun ways to just play with code. And it was fun. It's always nice to connect with like a kindred spirit in that way.
Absolutely.
So today, we're going to talk specifically about Figma.
Yep.
And more specifically, we're going to talk about how to use code to sort of manipulate Figma.
Yep. Which,
I'll be honest with you, I didn't know that that was an option for me. Like I had seen that there were custom Figma plugins, and I'd seen that there was like a image tracer or stuff that I had gotten, and it just never crossed my mind that like I could build one of those.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like the story of Figma is that it was actually built on the web, right, as a tool itself. And so our extensibility platform, the plugin API specifically, actually makes use of technologies that if you build for the web, you're going to be very familiar with already. And so it's really cool.
I do love that. And so I mean, that's a whole other story. One of these days, I should track somebody from Figma down just to talk about WASM and that whole bet on the web in general, because that story is fascinating.
Yeah.
But so let's talk a little bit about like what, I guess maybe we just set some stage with Figma in general.
Yeah.
Because I think Figma has seemingly, it felt like it came out of nowhere. Like I feel like the whole world was Photoshop, and then we were on Sketch, and then it just sort of like, it's like, wow, we're on Figma.
Yeah.
And I think a strong part of that story is because Figma bet on the web. It's a web native experience. It's collaborative, all that kind of, the multiplayer thing was huge. How do you, like, as a developer, how does Figma fit into the story for us? I feel like this is...
Yeah, I mean, so, my background specifically in web development, right? And so I think my orientation towards product development is going to be web forward. I think one of the things that I've actually learned here in this role is just like how vast the developer experience actually is, and like how many different types of disciplines there are and expectations there are from a design tool, right? When it thinks about design patterns and that should relate to code, depending on what you're coding for and what types of products you're building, there's just like a range of things. So Figma kind of like seeks to be a tool that can be used by everyone, right?
Right.
Built on the web, but not exclusively for the web, right? But at the same time, that's a huge part of our DNA. And so, we have this ability, I think, in my last role, I was working for a company doing design systems, component library, build out stuff, front-end engineering. And that was really my first experience with Figma as a product, collaborating with designers on the design systems team. And I think at that time we had a lot less features than we do today, but there was still like this aha moment with Figma, because it's like, oh, these designers are talking about like variants at the time was kind of the big thing, and the way that variants and components kind of like modeled very similar patterns to what I am implementing in TypeScript and React like component libraries. And so it was this opportunity like, oh wow, we can actually just use the same name for a variant, and like actually that's in terms of like when I build out this component for my engineering team and they go to implement something that's in Figma, it says the same thing. Like that in and of itself, like it doesn't have to say the same thing.
Right.
And so you have to be communicating. But like at that pattern level and the way that the mental model we have for our UI and the way that this stuff is constructed, like Figma like was this like moment where I was kind of like, as a developer, this is really compelling to me. Seeing this from a design perspective, like how the design perspective is actually really aligned with what we're doing.
Right.
Since then, right, so since I've come over here, we've announced dev mode, which the best way to kind of think about it is like developers come to Figma to consume a design so that they could go build it in their, IDE of choice or, however they want to go do that. But they have to come to Figma, and they've been coming to Figma. And a third of our users are developers, right? They're not spending the same amount of time, but they're a huge portion of the people that are touching our product. And so we kind of embrace that with dev mode, right? And it's like, okay, so how do we kind of create a room in the designer's home, so to speak, for the developer to leave a toothbrush, put the poster on the wall, like, do that sort of thing.
Clear out a drawer for us.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what we kind of announced at Config last year in the summer, and like, we're kind of beginning to kind of smooth out that surface that developers were already coming to, so it feels less like they're entering a design tool and more like they're entering a developer tool. Not to create, but to consume those patterns effectively so that they can go do what they need to do. And since then, we've been rolling out more features to kind of just like bridge those gaps, meet developers where they're at. Variables like is another release that we had on the design side, which allows you to start, really using the same token naming and that sort of a thing. But then we also have, the ability to make a code gen plugin, so that like an org can build private plugins to generate the exact code that they need.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you there because I want to talk about that because of how cool that is.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that we have the ability as developers to get code out of Figma that we wrote.
Yeah. Yes.
Because that's pretty cool. Like that to me, I think this is the stuff that when I started to see what Figma was unlocking, that was when I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is
exactly.
Why. And so the thing that I think is really cool is, when I was at Netlify, for example, they had a design system team. They were working really hard on building out like good tokens, good like reusable bits, and all of those were designed in Figma with the variants, and we could go look at our design library. And then we had this like chicken and egg problem where we had the code, and that was in Storybook. And we had the designs, and those were in Figma. And then somebody, which at the time we just had a design engineer, who was just sort of like making sure they stayed in sync.
Exactly.
Right? And so what's really exciting about what you're saying is that effectively we have the ability now to have a sort of sync between the two.
Yeah, and we're trying to do as much as we can, because like what that sync looks like is also very relative, like, and subjective for different people. And like, we have a lot of default code generation, for example, right? And that's the default code generation for styles, and like we do some CSS code gen and those sorts of things natively inside of Figma. But at the same time, if you're a developer, you know that like you got your own patterns, you got your own mental model for this stuff, and so extensibility is like the way to go about actually bringing that into Figma. Figma can't guess that for you, right? Like you need to actually have some of that coming from that brain, so to speak, that person who's bridging that gap for the entire team, like to be able to actually specify exactly what you need. So yeah, opportunities for that. Yeah. Really exciting.
Okay, so today what I would love to look into is like, I'm aware of plugins. I've seen some of the custom code gen stuff that you've done. I've seen some of the really like headbendy stuff that I'm seeing from like Raji with the shaders and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So all of that, I see it, but I don't understand it. So I would love to get from where I am now, which is I know they exist and they're cool, to I know how they work and I can maybe build one.
Perfect. Yeah,
so if I want to do that, what's our process?
So the way to think about this is we have the Figma canvas, right?
Okay.
Where we're drawing rectangles in Figma.
Should I show?
Let's hop over and let's actually do this.
Let's do it. So I'm gonna take your screen, and then I'm gonna use this better layout.
Wonderful. Here. Oh wow, that layout isn't
that great?
Tremendous. So this is kind of the Figma canvas, right? And this is where we can go ahead and just be like drawing shapes. So there's a plugin API that can perform all of these actions that you can do with your hands, right?
Right.
And so we have an API to learn for that stuff. But we also, when you're talking about Raji building shaders and like, doing various textures and things like that, we also have plugin UIs, which are essentially iframes that open up inside of Figma.
So I can just make like any website I want.
Any website you want can communicate through post message to the canvas. Okay. So you can do anything that you could do with like HTML canvas, right? Mm-hmm. And like draw whatever image you want, and then send it to Figma and put it inside of Figma, right? And so if you start to think about all the APIs that are available to you in a browser, there's some caveats there.
Sure.
If you want to do like things that require SSL or like that sort of a thing, you have to actually host your UI externally, but that's also possible, and you can do that too. And you can do OAuth and all of that using stuff like that. But you basically are given a web browser to play in, and then to send whatever information you want back to Figma, and then do what you want with the plugin API inside of Figma.
So that's really cool, because that immediately makes me feel more confident, because like I know how to build a website.
Exactly.
Right, and I know what post message is.
Yes.
And so it just turns into an API at that point.
Yeah.
Like I'm not doing magic, I'm just sending things to an API.
Yeah.
I like
It's
that.
wonderful. And I think just a little kind of like something that I think is like really a huge opportunity and quite nice is like plugins inside of Figma, right? For the longest time have primarily been enabling designers. Mm-hmm. And so they've been this cool thing where the APIs are actually supremely like accessible for web developers and stuff.
Right.
But we haven't really had the use cases to like even care that exists, unless you're someone that's close to a design team and you see an opportunity to enable your designers, or maybe you're a designer developer and you want to build a plugin. Like those are the people who have been like, oh, this is amazing. Mm-hmm. But like for folks that are like, that this would really resonate with, they haven't always had use cases for that. And so the more developer stories that we're telling inside of Figma, now these APIs like have an opportunity to be like, yeah, we've been doing this for a while, and now you see use cases for what you can do with this. And it's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I have
You wanna do this?
and I have a pitch for what I'd like to do.
Okay, let's hear it.
So a thing that I'm always trying to do when I'm in Figma is mock up a UI.
Yeah.
And part of that is I need dummy data. But I want it to be as close to real as possible, because title lengths are different, and images have different colors, and I want to make sure that it looks good with actual data and not like my carefully curated dummy data. So can we build a plugin that will hit my Learn with JSON API, pull in episode data, and auto-populate, like maybe we can build a component that I would use, and then we just auto-populate that. And then I want to learn how we can have Figma generate the code that I want it to generate to lay those out.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that.
All right.
Let's do it.
Okay, so now we got to do a little do-si-do.
We do the do-si-do.
All right, okay, so I'm going to work on this computer here.
Yep. How familiar are you with designing inside of Figma?
I'm pretty comfortable with it.
So what's going to be our schema in terms of the data we're getting from the endpoint?
So we're going to get a title, we're going to get an image. It's a JSON blob with everything you would get for...
A JSON blob?
Exactly. So we can get to, let's see, dev/API v2, and we'll go with, let's go with schedule, because that's a little bit shorter. And so this is the standard data that we get.
Okay.
So we have, and I would say probably what we need is like the title. We can pull the guest name. We have their image if we need it. We have the, I have a shortcut for generating the image of the episode as well.
Yep.
And then we have a description up here. So
we want to make like a line item with some of this information, wrap it in a component.
Yeah.
What I think we should do is then map those values to component properties.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we can build a plugin that makes the request to get the data, creates instances of this component, and then fills it with the JSON stuff.
Okay, so I'm going to do like the most rudimentary setup here.
Wonderful. We love to see it.
So I'll get this would be our episode image, and then we would have our title, and this would be, title goes here.
Yep.
Then we have our description. And this one I would want to be like one of these. right? And then maybe we make this one a little bit bigger. So we'll go with like 24 for that.
Yep.
Maybe do like a 16 for that. And then just have that general setup there. So like this will be our image, this will be our title, this will be our description.
Yeah.
Maybe that's good enough to start.
Yeah, let's start with that. Yeah, great. Select the frame, and then it's Command Option K, I believe.
Command Option K.
Yeah, and then we can rename it whatever we want to call this thing.
Okay, we'll call this episode preview.
Okay, so we've got a component. Now, let's do text properties for these two things. So if you click this, and then you go to the text node, and then click this little, and then we can name that headline or title. Yeah, exactly. And then we'll do that for the description too. Create property. And let's like take a beat. Let's create an instance of this so we can see what component properties are. I think that's, so the way that this works is we've created an instance, right, of this component. And so this gives us kind of like a very, if you're familiar with like components in code, we have props essentially and the ability to fill that stuff. And we don't just have text props, we also have, variants where you're selecting from a dropdown. We've got a Boolean property to toggle visibility on nodes and stuff.
And the reason this is so cool is that like one of the things that I always do is I'll start designing and then I realize that I want to change stuff.
Yeah.
And then I start to realize that like, oh my God, I have to go and like tweak all of these things to make this work. But here you can see that like I tweaked the parent component.
Yep.
This updated, but it didn't change my text. So it's like, this is so nice.
Yeah,
this is so nice.
This is how we think about it, right?
Right.
Like we think about these patterns in this way, and this align. Now, we named this prop title and this prop description, and if that's aligned with how a developer is thinking about that exact same information, when my full stack engineer comes to consume this design, it has the exact same property name as it actually ends up having in our React component library, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's opportunities there. It doesn't always align, but you can drive that kind of alignment, which is great.
Yeah. And there was just a question on how you make something into a component. So anything in Figma, if you click it, there's this button here.
Yep.
And that'll create a component, or you can hit Command Option K. But so I apparently accidentally tapped it. But no, that's a component.
Yeah.
And then when you look over, is it here, the assets?
Yeah, libraries. We can publish, this is actually that's a different library. It's example.org.
Gotcha.
But yeah, which is something that I've created in this team. But yeah, you then, from this file is kind of your definition of your component library. And you can publish that to your team. And those publishes can kind of almost be versioned. Like you can stage a bunch of changes and then publish a big update.
Oh, nice.
Any file that's using that can choose to pull that information in, when they're ready for it, and all their designs will update to the latest and that sort of a thing.
Oh, and that's cool because that's something that I know was like a little bit painful about Figma in the past. Is every time you opened it was like, there's a new version of this component.
Exactly.
It would always be like the tiniest thing.
Yeah, and so you have the ability to kind of like do that at whatever schedule you want, right? Like, and so, yeah. So, so we have a component instances. Do we have any more questions? Or are we good?
Let's see. Just Vinny giving extra insights there.
Amazing.
Yep. Right click and select component. Yeah. So there's a bunch of cool ways that we can
tons of different entry points.
We can interact with this.
Yeah.
But so we've got the very basics of a episode preview component.
So essentially what we're going to want to do is we're going to write a plugin that makes a request, gets data, and then does what we just did where we created an instance. Mm-hmm. It'll create an instance off of this component, probably for now.
Yes.
And one thing we could even do is say you select the component before you run the plugin, and it'll use your current selection to know which thing to like. We can do all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So let's start the bare bones of the plugin. I think that would be the next step. So if you switch over to VS Code, I've created the two files we need. This is all you need to start a plugin. We need a manifest to describe the plugin to Figma, and then we need a code.js file. We can name it whatever we want, but that's just going to be our primary file. And we could be compiling this with TypeScript. We could be doing whatever we want. But let's start with the manifest because we need to tell Figma what's up. And if you switch to Arc, there is a I have a tab. If you move over here to the left, there's a API reference. So this is the plugin API reference. I don't know if you want to Command L to show the URL so that people see it. Figma.com/plugin-docs/API is where you can start accessing this. Click off and go to plugin manifest. So this is kind of like the documentation for this manifest.
Okay.
I just copy the whole thing. Copy it, and we'll start from there.
Works for me.
Let's name it.
And we'll call this LWJ.
We need a unique ID, especially if we want to publish this to the community. Just change one of those numbers or something. There you go. Yeah, change one of those numbers just so we have a unique one. The API is still version 1. Main is telling Figma what our primary code file is for the Canvas plugin API, like the stuff that's happening inside of Figma. But then we also have a UI field, which is where you can begin to say this is the file where when it opens the UI. Mm-hmm. Delete that for now, because let's start without a UI for the time being. Document access. This is a new API. We started dynamic page loading, which allows you to open a file without having to load every page in the file. So a Figma file can have many pages sometimes.
Right.
And so we have some API changes where everything's async now because of various reasons, finding nodes in the file and stuff has to all be async because of dynamic page loading. And then this last little bit, network access, is basically telling Figma, we're not making any web requests, but we are going to be making web requests. So put an asterisk instead of none, because we will be making web requests from this thing. And then this is displayed on the community for published plugins so that customers or users know either like an allow listed series of domain.
Right, or like this one's going to be able to make network requests, so use at your own discretion.
So exactly, and it allows you to specify exactly which ones it does. If you want, we're just doing a wildcard, which would kind of be like a red flag for some folks, not matter for others.
Right, now if I wanted to put in a real domain, is it like you put the protocol in?
Let's actually do this, let's do this correctly. Go to the docs in Arc, Command K, and do allow domains. Yeah, let's click on network access, right? So the documentation for network access is here. I think we should have some examples. So none, asterisk, you can do wildcard stuff.
Okay, yeah, why don't we just do this? So we'll do a learn with JSON.dev.
Perfect.
Because that's going to be the API that we call.
You're just doing things the right way. Okay, I think for now, let's add another field under main, and it's camel case editor type. And it's an array of strings, and we're going to say just Figma for now, in quotes. We also have FigJam, our whiteboarding tool. You can make plugins for that. You can also do dev mode specifically. We can flag in here too. But for now, we're just going to leave this.
Okay.
And so let's save this. I don't have autosave in VS Code. Do you use autosave?
No.
Yeah, okay. Perfect. Okay, so this should be everything we need to kind of begin to do some stuff. And let's do Figma.notify is a function.
Figma, like capital Figma?
I'm sorry, lowercase Figma.
Figma.
It's kind of like on the window if we want to think about it that way.
Got it.
Parentheses, quotes, hello world or something. We're just going to send a message. Okay.
Okay. So this is like, in terms of a minimum viable Figma plugin, this is it. You need a manifest, and you need at least something here. Okay.
And so we're going to run this plugin in development mode, right? Which is going to read directly from our file system instead of from the Figma community.
Excellent.
So if you go over to Figma and you click that little guy right there.
This one?
Yep. Plugins. Instead of recents and saved, we have my Eclipse plugin. We should actually look at that in a second. Hit development, and then plus. And we are going to import plugin from manifest. It's in J Albaugh projects. And then LWJ manifest. Boom. Open. Invalid for, okay.
Schemes. Must include a scheme such as, okay.
Perfect.
Fine. Your docs lied to me.
I guess they did. That might have been an update after the fact. Let's try it again.
So let's try it again. We're going to go into this one.
Yeah, we have to re-import.
This one. Oh, no.
Yeah, you had it.
This one, this one, and there it goes.
Hey, so this is now, if you just do that, yep. Hello world down in the bottom.
Hey,
So-
look at this, y'all. Oh, it didn't do the thing.
Yeah, cancel. It's actually still running.
But this is
So-
great. I mean, this is exactly what I want. Because here's the other thing that always kind of gets me about plugin dev for a lot of things is that the startup is so challenging.
Yeah.
You've got to get the Docker image. You've got to set up some kind of like local server. You've got to deploy it to a network addressable instance. The fact that I'm running off of a local file here, this is a killer feature.
Yeah.
Because it makes me actually want to build one of these.
Yep. one thing I should add, if you were running Figma in the web browser, you can't do this. So this is
So you
because
need
we're using the
Figma
native
desktop app.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. So that's a pro
another
tip
part.
then, is if you're going to be a Figma
Plugin
plugin developer,
developer.
you're going to want the Figma desktop app.
Exactly.
And the Figma desktop app, it's an Electron app kind of around the Figma browser, so
Yeah.
it's effectively the same in terms of experience.
We just have more functionality because we're actually
Right.
on the machine.
Right.
Yeah, for stuff like this.
Very cool. Okay.
So hit cancel because we're still running. And let's go back to VS Code and let's add a line. We can probably close manifest if we want to at this point.
Okay.
Add a line, and it's going to be Figma.close plugin is the function, and it's camel case. Sweet. So it's just going to notify and then close the plugin and no longer have a spinner. Quickest way to run this now is actually click out of here, Command P, and we've got our own little thing. Just write LWJ. Boom.
Ah,
Wonderful.
beautiful.
Sweet.
And there we go.
This is running. So let's talk about what would the next step be?
So the next step, I think, for me would be let's figure out how to grab this instance and duplicate it without worrying about any of the other stuff. So
Cool.
just, can I have my plugin find this component and create a new instance?
Yeah, let's actually, instead of working with the selection like I was hinting at earlier, it actually might be a better example if we find it. Let's do it.
Okay.
So we're going to do, before we close the plugin, right, let's actually create, let's create an async function so that we can start using async and await as our kind of like, let's say it's called run or initialize or whatever we want to call it. And then inside of here, put Figma close plugin as kind of like the last thing we'll do after we, that's how we'll exit this function. And then let's call run somewhere at the top of the, we'll call run somewhere. Great. Okay, so now we have all the async await goodies we can muster. So let's do Figma.current page. Yeah, we'll do it this way. Figma.current page.
Like so?
Yep. Dot find all with criteria. And then inside of here, you're going to do an object. So the arg is an object, and it's going to be types, array, string, uppercase, component, all uppercase, constant case. Okay, let's save and see if Jake knows what he's talking about.
I mean, I let you.
Command Option I. Let's open up the JavaScript console here. Because it's the web.
It's just the web.
Okay, let's try running this and see if we get an error. Okay, we didn't get an error. That means we got something. So top of the code.js file, console.clear. Pro tip, have you ever done this? I used to do it in CodePen all the time. Top of my pen, console.clear.
I have never actually done this, and that is a...
Super helpful, especially in development. Okay, great.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so let's actually log the, let's store this in a variable and log the variable and see what
Okay.
happens.
I
I can't believe I got that
First
right
try.
off the head, off the dome. No script here, by the way. We have a rough idea what we're doing, but we did not. Hey, check it out. Okay.
Now we got
so,
a component node. Let me make this a little bit
Yep,
bigger.
and it's got getters and stuff. So the only attribute we're actually getting here is the ID. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff available to us on here. How are we doing on chat?
We're doing great on chat.
Doing great on chat?
Y'all, and if y'all need...
Thanks, Linda.
Yeah, good memory here. There's a question about the command line interface. So we have a ton that we want to get through in this, but we will, our plan is to go like as far as we can and then come back and enhance things. So
Yeah.
but yes. And then the
Great.
recording for this will be available on YouTube immediately after we go offline. So if you head over to the Learn with Jason YouTube, the recording of this and every episode of Learn with Jason is right there under the live tab. Okay, so we've got our component node. We have an ID.
Yep.
Now,
And I guess it's worth saying an instance is an instance node, right? So we have 2 nodes in our canvas right now. It only found the component because we're filtering just for component. So let's just, do we want to like run with the assumption that there's never going to be another component in here? Or we should probably do a filter.
yeah, let's be
name.
responsible.
Yeah, okay, so let's go back to the code and we can just do, at the end of this, just do a dot filter, I guess, for, and then just do, I don't know, C arrow function or something. Yeah, and then just do C.name. Just
Oh,
return.
do we get the name in here?
We do, it is in there.
C.name.
Yeah.
Give me your name.
Yeah,
Exception
it's not
error.
gonna do anything.
Okay, okay.
So, yeah, just get rid of your curlies and just
Oh, we're
implicitly
doing-
return that bad boy. C.name equals.
What do we call it? Episode preview?
Yeah, and we should still see the same thing.
Okay, here we go. Let's try again. Oh wait, that's not the button. We get
Huzzah.
our component node.
Wonderful.
There it is.
Okay, so
All
then
right.
why don't we just grab index 0? What's at? I always just do braces 0.
This is some new JavaScript goodness that
Let's-
lets you grab any index.
Let's see if our compiler actually, like our JavaScript runtime actually allows.
It's not that new. It should work.
Okay, well let's see. But it might. Okay,
Yeah, it works.
wonderful. Wow. Learn with Jason. I'm learning with Jason.
We're learning together.
We're learning together. Okay. Sweet. So we know we have our component, so we could just write, I don't know, if component, do the stuff.
Okay,
and why don't we
so
create another async function or
if-
something and do an
This
await
is
on
going to
that?
be our one component, so we're going to get rid of this, and we're going to say if there's not a component,
That's what you want to do?
then we will Figma notify busted, and then I guess we would close there.
Yeah, we could do that.
We'll just immediate bail, and then otherwise,
Await some async function we haven't created yet.
yeah. Okay, so we can do stuff here.
Okay, yeah, yeah, good call. We'll just do it on one function. I don't know. Okay.
Well, I mean, we can make another
No,
function. I'll
it's
do.
no. Let's just keep going. This is fine. We'll do this later. These are the things that are so arbitrary that we spend way too much time thinking about. This is a good idea. I like this. Okay, let's do stuff. So, oh boy, let's create an instance. So the best way to like figure out the best way to do any of this stuff is to go back to our docs, Command K, and fuzzy search. Create instance. Yeah. So what is this method on? If we scroll up, we'll see that this is a method on a component.
Component.
So component.createInstance
Okay,
is a
so
function.
I would say new component,
Instance.
new instant. No, good.
Get that language right.
equals component create instance.
Yep. And that is going to just spit it out like immediately. We don't have to like append child or anything like that. So these create actions.
Oh, so this is us telling Figma, make an instance of this. This isn't me
Exactly.
like creating one in memory that I then have to.
No.
Oh, okay,
There's
okay.
So we do have append methods to like order things on the canvas, like layer wise, in the same way you would kind of move things around in an HTML document or something. But our create instance just implicitly adds a node to the canvas. And then you can move it around, do whatever you want with it. So if we actually just hit save and run, let's see what that does. You have an instance in here already, correct?
I do. Should I?
Let's delete it.
Okay, we'll
and
get
see
this
what
one out of here.
happens.
I'm going to zoom out so that we can see
How are we doing on
what's.
time? We're 30 minutes in.
We're killing it on
Okay.
time. We're
Boom, there's our
oh, look at us go!
I'm moving to get some water. Always be hydrating. That's an inside joke from another live stream.
All right, I'm going to follow the cue.
Okay. ABH. Sweet. So that's an
I mean, we
instance.
did it. But okay. So this is how much code. Sorry, this is how much code we've written.
And we're doing like we're guarding
Yeah.
like for error handling and
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean, so in
Yeah.
20, 25-ish lines of code, we've got, and I mean, a lot of this is not even really necessary. 20 lines of code, call it. We have
Yeah.
a really simple canvas manipulation.
Yeah.
That's really, really nice.
Yeah.
And now, is this one of these like magic things that now that I have my new instance, I can just start messing with its properties?
Yeah. So why don't you go back to the docs?
Oops.
And we'll click on, our docs are pretty intuitive here. So go back to just click on instance node. So now we're on the instance node documentation. We should be able,
instance.
in here, we should be able to get the main component async. Main component is old. That's the document access
get main,
nonsense.
okay.
It's now an async function.
Okay.
We're in this
Set.
in-between mode where we're moving to this async world.
Look at us go.
Set properties.
Set properties. This is gorgeous. All right, so we're gonna go with new instance.
And also, if we were using TypeScript, which we shouldn't set up right now, we
We
have
get
plugin
autocomplete.
typings and all of that stuff too. And then
I decided I
let's-
didn't
what-
want to type new anymore.
Yeah,
So.
that's just great. What are the? Okay,
And our properties were title.
yeah, it was uppercase though, right?
Was it?
Or capitalized? Yeah.
It was indeed. Okay, so let's get back in here. Good memory. I would have learned that by breaking it.
And yep.
Let's see. This came from a plugin.
Huzzah! I've said huzzah twice. I swear that's not something I normally say.
That's the limit, though. You say it one more time, you gotta leave.
It's just like it's like a reverse Beetlejuice. Okay.
Okay, so now we have, in theory, what's going to happen is we're going to see
I'm
a
crossing my
component
fingers.
pop onto
Yeah.
the canvas, and then we're going to see the title and description show this data.
Yeah, and it should happen instantaneously. It should just be different.
So let's go again.
Perfect. We got an error. Let's look.
Oh, we got an error. Okay. Could not find a component property with name description.
Yeah. So let's make. Is there a misspell?
Great question.
Because I would assume we'd get it for title.
Maybe did it alphabetize them?
Or maybe it did alphabetize them. Good. Man, that's a good. Okay, let's. With name description. Oh. Properties. Property names aren't the name we wrote in Figma. They're the name we wrote in Figma plus some unique information. So
okay.
we actually want to go and, we actually want to get the name of the property off the main component.
Okay.
Let's actually see what that is. Hold on. Can we go back to the docs?
Component properties?
Property name corresponds to the names from the parent component property definitions, suffix with a pound and a unique ID. Okay. Let's go to, let's do component property definitions. Let's search for that really quick with Command K.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we can enter into this the right way. So these are supported on components and component sets. Let's keep scrolling down here. So we're going to get this, right? And look at this. See that like pound and that is the actual name of the thing.
Okay.
So what we want to do, this is actually going to be kind of fun because we want to, we'll do like a does name match.
Like a
this
starts
name
with or
starts
whatever.
with.
Yeah,
Exactly.
okay.
So let's get the component property definition. So this is the definition of all the properties on the main component, right? That's not going to be available on the instance. It's going to be on the parent, on the main one. Yep.
Okay.
And that I believe component property definitions is just an attribute.
It's just an attribute. Okay.
And so then we'll do. Do we want to do like a reduce situation or like what format do we want these names to come
Let's see.
back
These
in?
are going to come back as an
We could do
object, and so we can do
Object.keys?
Yeah. So let's
Filter?
do our all props, and the ones we want to set. We'll do all props, or let's see.
Object.keys, all props?
Object.keys, all props, and then we're going to
Dot
filter, and then we'll say that's our key, and so we'll say return key starts with
Title or description.
title,
Yeah.
or key starts with description.
Let's look at those props.
And then what we should get
I mean, okay.
is
This will
those
be
two
good.
things.
Let's see if this works. Let's see if this works.
And then we should, let's see, how would we do this?
So what I was going to say is if we did a reduce, if we reduced into an object, we could say title, title, pound, whatever.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, let's do that. So
Into and then, how do you think about that first? What do you call that?
I
in your
call it the
brain?
accumulator because that's what
Yeah.
they've always put it in. But so then we can do like an if it starts with one of these or one of these.
Or do we want to do if starts with title, then if starts
Yeah,
with
that's
description,
probably better.
Sorry, backseat driving.
No, this is exactly what you're here for, is to
Okay.
keep me from falling down rabbit holes.
Listen, if I was coding, you'd be doing the same thing.
Then we'll say the accumulator title
Yeah.
is going to be
Equals K.
K, and otherwise we could probably code golf this down a little bit to make it better, but we're not going to stress about
but that's absolutely.
it. So then
not-
we've got our props. Oh, and then we need to return
Yep.
the accumulator. Okay, so good. We've got our object that. Okay, I'm pretty sure I wrote a reducer right on the first try.
I think
Feels
you
right.
did.
Okay. So
I'm glad I'm not
then
using TypeScript.
what we will do
those are really
is one of these,
Yep.
and we gotta wrap that like
Like
so.
that and that. Yep.
And then
Do you
we'll
always refer to the braces quotes, or would you ever write dot description dot title here? I'm just curious.
I don't know.
Okay.
I
I'm just
I would do a
curious.
dot, but for some reason when it's capitalized,
You
it
just
starts to feel like, oh, it might have spaces, it might have something else.
Yeah, that's not a. I also kind of, it's like, oh, what I think of that as a class typically too. Like, this is a problem that we get in Figma all the time because like Figma people doing designs are going to use proper casing.
They're going to do whatever
and
they
we
want.
never
yeah.
do that. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so we're much closer.
Yeah. So
ACK
now
is
it's
not defined, which means I did what?
Oh yeah, it's no longer ACK. It's
Oh right, it's props.
Anyone in the chat?
Obviously.
Hey, MRV dog got that. Sorry, we should have looked
here to
sooner.
bail me out. All right. Hey, look at that go.
Yo.
Okay, but I think I just spotted a problem.
What's your problem?
It's only creating one instance, or it's stacking them.
It's stacking them.
So we need to move them around.
How many did we create? Oh, we've been running
created
this
so
thing
many.
so many times. Okay, so let's. We can always just write instance dot remove. I think while we're deving. Oh no, then we can't even see it. So never mind. We could do a set timeout.
Yeah. Now this
Set
is
timeout 2 seconds.
that sounds
And then
like
we need
it's gonna-
to write an await function that'll wait that 2 seconds before it prematurely closes.
Okay, but this is cool. So we're getting what we want. We're getting
Mhm.
our. You can see the pieces are set. So
Yeah.
that's good.
So now we need data.
So now we need data. So let's get data.
We can do that without even opening an iframe, which is kind of wild. We got fetch. So
we have fetch right in
this
here.
environment we're working in isn't a full, like it's a Figma JavaScript environment, but we do have fetch support and it's fairly similar. We should make sure, because all of our IntelliSense right now is not the same fetch. Let's just make sure it's very similar, but like let's, wow, you know your little rest situation there, don't you?
Yeah, and this one should be pretty straightforward. Like we don't need anything magic here.
But I want to make sure that we have the exact same structure. Let's run it and see if we get an error. Let's go with that. Console.logres. Oh my goodness. Yeah, okay, we got it.
So we got
Beautiful.
all of that, and then this is our JSON. So then I'm going to get schedule will be await res JSON.
I know one of our engineers, James Yang, was working on fetch a while back. Thanks, James.
Thanks, James.
James,
And
Jason, and Jake.
There we go. We got data.
Wow.
So there's our schedule. We can switch over to episodes. if
In
we
an
want
older
more.
version of our plugin API, we didn't have that ability, so you'd have to open up an iframe, make a request from the iframe, get information back through post message, and do all that. But this is actually really speeds up what you can do now inside of here. You don't need to create another HTML file with some stuff. So it's pretty rad.
Okay, so now observe.
Yeah, now you can just, I don't even have to teach you how to do this part. Like
It's
we just
because
did it.
we're just writing JavaScript.
We're just
friends.
writing JavaScript.
This is perfect. So then I can do episode.title, and then I have episode.description.
Yep.
Not that description.
Yeah, let's do this. You got an image thumbnail too?
I do.
I've got a
Heyo! Look at that.
Great.
My component's not right, but like,
That's why we're doing this because
yo!
yeah.
This
Now-
is cool. So now I can do something like, we'll make this wrap,
Yeah.
and then that makes this wrap, so then that breaks.
So you can have
So
it,
we're gonna have to do
no,
some stuff.
Just click it right here.
Click
Click
this?
the title, yeah. And then scroll up. Width, instead of being static, click on, no, we don't want to set it to a variable. We should be able to have it fill the parent. I'm sorry.
Don't we need to like make this a layout if we want that to work?
Oh, we haven't done that, have we? Yeah.
We
let's
no,
make
we
it
haven't
a-
done anything. So
okay, let's
let
make it a
me.
layout.
All right, so this I'm
You know
gonna
what you're doing.
lay out.
You know what you're doing. Plus,
And then we want it to go down.
Yep.
Okay.
We can set our padding.
And then
or-
did this already fix it? It already fixed it.
Yeah, and then we can
Oh, but I
have
want
that node
this.
fill parent width as the width. See fixed, click fixed,
Oh, look at this.
fill container.
Oh,
It's kind of like flex grow.
gorgeous. Okay, I didn't know that one was there.
Yeah, it's
So then I
pretty
can
great.
make this one fill container. Oh.
So now that'll respect the padding on the parent,
Oh.
right? Just like
jeez.
box sizing, border
Look at
box.
it. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, y'all. Look at I did
Yeah.
not know that worked.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, that's dope. All right. But now look.
That's right.
We have our component, and because we use the auto layout, we can have it expand to whatever size. All right, let me swap this. Well, actually, what do we do next? Because there's several things that I want to
Close
do,
the
and
laptop
we
with
have that's it. Everybody go home. We got like 40-ish minutes.
Okay, so I think first thing we've got a hack for images that I think is actually pretty good. I think we can get these images in there too.
Okay. Do we want to do images? Do we want to do code gen first?
Let's do CodeGen.
Yeah, let's do the code gen first because I want to make sure that we get through that, and then we'll come back.
Okay, so this is related though.
Okay.
Let's write to plugin data on the instance.
Okay.
So plugins can store information on any node inside of Figma, whether it's the page, a component, a rectangle, whatever. So the image URL is going to be,
I'm just gonna have to do it the way that I do it.
yeah.
Dev, and then we'll what is it? It's gonna be the episode.slug. and
We
then-
code very similarly. It's actually really nice to kind of just be like, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I think
that's
that
how I would do
I
it.
think that works. Let me double check that that's actually the right thing. Console.lorg.
Console.lorg.
Get one of those. We get one of these. We open this in another. Oops. Whoa. What buttons am I pushing?
Command T inside of Figma.
And there it is. Okay. So that is correct.
That was huge. Okay. Okay,
and
so
I can shrink that down if we need to.
yeah, so if we have time, we could talk about how we would actually draw this image inside of Figma, but we're not going to worry about that right now. But we do want to be able to access this later when we do things like generate code for this instance, right? So instance dot set plugin data. Yep, and you can almost think of this like it's actually two args. The first arg is the key, so we'll call it image as
Oh.
a string, and then you can literally just put the image URL.
Oh, that's easier than what I was doing.
Yeah, and let's just make sure that that doesn't throw an error. Save. So now,
All good?
here, click on this. Oh, we're not actually. I was going to quickly have us access it here, but we can't because we're not in the plugin. Okay, it's scoped to the plugin, so only the plugin can read it. So this stuff is private, so that the plugin has access to read and write it. We will find out whether or not this is going to work later. So we're storing it here. Console.log instance.get plugin data image, and then we'll know. Yeah. Do we have it or do we not? Yeah.
We got it.
Sweet. So now we can reference this anytime that node is selected with a plugin, right?
Wonderful.
Cool.
Okay. So then, for us to build this out, then I want, like, the way that I would mark this up is I'll just pseudocode some stuff here. We'll do.
You're just gonna write a string or something.
Yeah, we'll just do one of these, and we'll kind of say, I would set it up as an article. That article would have we'll call it an image. The source would be our image.
Yeah, and we've written a whole bunch.
And then
of
we
CSS
need our alt,
for
which will
what
be the
this does.
title. Then we have our, we'll make it one of these. That would be the title. And then we'd have our description.
Great.
Right. So that's going to be our baseline target. This is.
Pseudo
Let's
HTML.
assume this is what came out of my design system.
Yeah.
And so.
Let's
then
render the HTML in. Well, let's see the environment for showing code. So if you just save this because this is fun. This isn't going to break. Now let's switch to Figma, and let's enter dev mode. Shift D or click that.
Shift D.
Boom.
Heyo.
Okay, so if you click this, just click this, scroll down to CSS, and here's what we get, right? We get some information kind of about, because right now we have the parent selected, so we see CSS just on the parent. We got a gap, line items, flex direction, padding, all of that, right?
And that'll get us this layout.
That gets us that layout. And if those things were bound to variables, we'd see CSS custom properties in there and all of that sort of a thing, right? Okay, but what we want to do is like not show the CSS, because in this world, the CSS has already been written, right?
Right, we want it to
wanted
be
the
like
markup.
an article class episode preview or
Yes.
whatever.
And then eventually a React instance, like, or
Right.
something like that. But let's start with HTML, right?
Okay.
So our plugin can also, if you click on CSS here, you can run plugins here. So we're gonna come.
okay.
We're gonna make our plugin work in this little panel now. So if you click off of this, and let's go back here, and we gotta go back to the manifest. Yep. We're gonna add, after Figma, do comma dev. And then we also need, I think it's capabilities beneath a new attribute, capabilities array code gen. And let's verify that I got the right stuff. So let's go back to the docs. Code gen, capabilities, code gen. Cool, let's click on that really quick. Did you see VS Code is also a capability? Did you see that VS Code is a capability? Okay, we'll get to that later. So because we're doing a code gen plugin, we also have to define some code gen languages. So let's just do an array with one of these.
Okay.
So it'll be a code gen languages, camel case, array, and the G is loaded.
No, it's not.
At Figma, code gen is one. Array, object, and then what are the two properties?
Label and value.
Label can be whatever you want, and actually so can value.
So we need label, and it's going to be,
Special.
we're going to call it design system.
You could also have it be HTML, and
Just
have
call
the
it-
same code gen plugin run in React or HTML. You could do
Oh,
it
nice.
like this
Okay,
is how to
okay,
think
okay.
about it.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. So then the value,
What was it? Value?
wasn't it value?
Yeah, value. I'm sorry.
Be like that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And the value is what we get in a callback, so we can detect which language we're running.
Okay.
Great. This should be everything we need now. Let's go back to Figma and make sure it exists. If you go to CSS development,
Hey!
so it's there. It's not going to do anything, so let's not run it yet.
Right.
So what we want to do, we need to conditionally detect whether or not we're running in code gen mode or in design mode. How are we doing on chat?
We're doing good on chat. I'm just hiding some stuff. Okay.
Wonderful. All right, let's go back to the code.
Back to the code.
So run, let's rename run design mode or something. Like, what do we want to call it? Like run design mode?
Okay.
And then we will have run code gen as another async function.
Okay.
Why does that still say run at the top?
Did I break it?
Oh, it's the VS Code thing. It's interesting. The
Oh,
VS Code collapsed.
It updated. There we go. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So in here, just write return because CodeGen needs to return a promise. Actually, I'm sorry. No return. Figma.codegen is a new namespace for the API. Dot on parens. This is like a handler. Generate, and then have a callback.
And is that callback async?
No. Yes, it is actually. So
Okay.
we can just return a new promise. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And
So-
that'll return a promise for us.
Return an array,
Okay.
and in the array, do an object, write language, and then this is actually important, uppercase HTML. So these are
okay.
formatting. This is code syntax highlighting.
Oh, so this isn't referring to my label. This is referring to your internal.
So that Figma
Okay.
knows how to do it, and we have a whole bunch of languages it can format as.
I gotcha.
Then do code. Let's just do hello world like in an H1 or something. Like this
Like,
will be the
can
code
I-
string. Yeah,
can I
do
just
that.
pull this in?
Exactly.
Let's do this.
Yes. And then title. And this can be whatever we want it to be, like HTML. Yeah, wonderful. Just delete that. Okay, I think now. Oh, we need to actually call run CodeGen. So
And do I run them both? Like
I'll show you. We're gonna do a conditional. So we're gonna say if Figma.editorType, remember from the manifest, is equal to Figma, lowercase, then run design mode, and then we'll do else if
Oh no, that's not the button I meant to push. That one.
Figma.editorType equals dev. So in our case, this is enough to work. Run CodeGen. You can also run a plugin in the sidebar in dev mode, and that is yet another thing you could do with a plugin.
Okay.
This would technically be true for that circumstance too, but this is good enough for now. You
Okay.
can detect if we're running in CodeGen. Okay, so now go there, development. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's party. We've got a code snippet. Look at us go. So anything you select in Figma is going to render that code snippet, right?
Yeah. This is great. Okay.
Behold.
So then, what we can do is we can start pulling stuff out. So how do I get the current instance? Is that passed in here?
So you actually, at a global level, at any point in a plugin, can access figma.currentpage.selection. But actually, arg from the function is what we want to do.
Okay. And is that the instance?
Because, it's a node,
So it's any
and
node.
we will need to know whether or not it is the instance, right? That's going to be logic that we're going to have to apply. So
Okay.
if, we could say node.name maybe is equal to whatever the name. We could do like if node.type is instance and node.name is whatever we call this whatever we call the component, then we know that it's one of the nodes we want to render CodeGen for.
But the name is going to match the component name, not the name of the thing?
Yeah, it's going to match the component. It's let's go look at.
Because aren't they...
Look at Figma. So, episode preview is the name of the instance, right?
And each of these, when it... Oh, wait, I got to get out of dev mode for this to work.
Shifty, yeah.
So, they're all named...
They're
episode
all
preview.
named that, right?
Got
So
it.
we can do a couple things. Theoretically, a designer could rename an instance. I don't know why they would, but they could.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing we could do is we can go instance, if instance.main component name is this, would be our like definitive way to check whether or not it's an instance of the right component.
Okay. So we would do like node.main component name.
Yeah, except now that's async. So we have to get main component async, and it's not main component name. It's main component dot name effectively is what we're doing. So here, actually, not everything has a main component. So we actually want this inside of this if node.type is an instance.
Okay.
If node.get main component async, like we're gonna have to await getting the main
Okay,
component
okay.
async. So const main component equals
Wait, node.get main component.
async
Async.
Yeah. And then, if main component.name is the name that we're looking for. Then we know.
Okay. So now we're sure.
Yep, and then maybe that's when we return this code, and then otherwise return an empty array, or we could return plain text that says we don't know how to do code for this, or something like that.
Yeah. So let's
guard.
do one of these. There's our guard.
And then we have a default fallback of an empty array. Great.
Yeah. Default, we return nothing, and then if it is the episode preview,
can we validate the main component async? This is the new async stuff. I just want to make sure that that's the right.
Yeah, let's do it. So then if I come in here, come down.
Why is it back to? Oh, I have CSS set to default. Go back to.
Here we go.
Can you just
get to?
Click on the settings, and uncheck that, and then go back to. Yeah. Okay, we're not getting anything.
We're not getting anything.
Let's look at the console and let's log.
Okay.
Let's log main component really quick. Yeah, we're not even in the if. Okay, great. I think the error is actually higher up. So let's go back to our code. Let's look at what's passed in on generate. And this is in the docs. We have to write node.node.
Node.node.
We get
okay.
the language in the callback, so we know which, because we can have
wanna-
multiple languages, and we get the node.
There is our episode oh wait, that's not the right one. Where am I? Oh my goodness, what am I doing? Recenter. Hey.
Click on that. Yep.
There's my episode preview.
Yeah, there we go. And then if you click something else, we shouldn't get any code. Yep.
And we get our component node, and
Perfect.
then, all right, and then if I come down here and I click in,
Yep.
we get nothing.
Yep.
Okay, perfect, so it's working.
Amazing.
So then I can dump out some of these console logs because we don't really need them, and then down in here, I need to do some stuff, so I'm gonna get the properties.
Yeah. Let's do, can we look at, I think it's get property.
I think you're right, because we did that
It'll
earlier.
It should be
Where
get.
was it? It was like get.
Well, get
Is it
property
different
might
than-
actually be a getter that we can use to just get property title.
Oh, that'd be dope.
Well, no, we're still gonna need the IDs. We need the IDs, or the funky names. Get property, yeah, on an instance. It's that one right there. So we're gonna have to do a similar thing, right? Where we'll have like the opportunity to put our little function in like a helper, the reduce,
Okay.
and then you can pass in the property definitions or the properties, and you'll get that little map back. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
yeah.
We can reuse all this code in a function.
Okay, so we're gonna move this up into a little function. That function is going to be called get properties
From stuff, yeah.
from node, and then I guess we pass in a node, and then we do one of these.
In fact, you're going to pass in property definitions in the first case, and you're going to pass in properties in the second case. So it's just like definitions or properties is the arg. Yeah, because they're going to be separate. They're different object types, but the keys are going to be exactly the same. Does that make sense?
Okay, so then I need,
Yeah, just definitions or properties right there. Yeah, and then just get rid of that. Boom. So
Okay.
yep, and then return props.
and then I think I broke my brain.
No, we're good. We're
So
good.
then down here,
Yep, you're going to
it's
just
gonna
do
be props is
yep,
get properties
yep,
from.
and then pass in all props. And then, I mean, you could just get rid of that variable. Doesn't matter though. Let's, yeah, exactly. You can just.
Why complicate things?
Well, this is what happens as you refactor, as things become redundant, because
Okay.
we're actually refactoring. Wonderful. And then down here, we should theoretically be able to call the same thing, except pass in, and now it's.
Main component?
No, we're doing it on the instance itself. We can do it on the instance, sorry. This is why your brain's breaking. We're not going to do it off of we could theoretically do it off of the component property definitions of the main component, like you were just thinking. We could do that.
Okay.
We can also just do it off of instance dot properties.
Properties.
And can we go back to the docs? Where's our instance? Are we in instance right now?
Instance node.
Yeah, and then scroll down.
Oh.
Let's print it. Component properties. I think it's actually component properties.
Okay.
Let's try it. Yes, I need to see this through now. We should be doing main component definitions because that would be simpler at this point, but now I need to see this through.
Okay, so I get
I think
component
it's
properties.
component properties, yeah. Because we're gonna have to set instance component property, or we're gonna have to read instance component properties, so we're gonna need to figure out what this is either way.
Okay, so let's whoops, run it.
Yeah, and these run just by selecting something. Chat's going bananas. Okay, yeah, okay.
Hey,
Yeah,
look at
okay,
us
so
go.
that's
okay,
working.
okay.
So we wrote a function that could take
Can
either.
we go back to the docs? Yeah. Good old node. Do love a good old node.
So our helper function can take an instance's properties or a main component's definitions.
Got
the
it.
keys are the same in both of those objects.
Right. So we're basically it's the same object. One is scoped to the instance. One is the parent.
One has the values.
Got
one has
it.
the definitions.
Okay, and then so what I can do from here is I can we can take this one and say
Instance dot component properties props dot title, right?
props dot
Instance dot component properties braces, your square brackets.
oh right, and then
And
we
then
need
it's props dot uppercase title, or if you want to do it your way, that's fine too.
if you want to do it your way.
And then, exactly. Fingers crossed. Are you selecting the parent? Yeah. Oh, let's look at the console.
Instance is not
Oh,
defined.
it's because it's node, right?
Oh right.
That was my bad. I said instance.
Okay, we're closer.
Wonderful.
We're closer.
And then I think it's dot value.
Hey, look at us go. All right, so then we can take this one,
Exactly.
do the same thing down here.
We got this. We got time. We can do this.
Okay.
Okay. Insert your title.
Now
up
I
there.
want this.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I need the title up here
Yep.
for our thingy, and then for our image, I want my data. So it's instance data.
Instance dot get
Get
plugin data.
plugin data. That's what it was.
And then
that
the
was.
key is whatever the name is.
And the key we called it was image.
And it's a function. Not
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Brilliant.
We don't need. Oh goodness.
Goodness me. And it's respecting all of this white space. So if you wanted to tab your boys back to the left there, we could
Indeed.
shift tabby. And then, yeah. Oh my goodness.
Look at us go, y'all. We've got. It's just working. Like it
It's just working.
It just does the thing that I want it to do.
Now, conceivably, we have a React component or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just like pretend.
Yeah, it could be like, you know.
We're going to duplicate it. We're going to duplicate it. Don't overwrite what we just wrote.
Oh, okay.
Because we're going to
All right.
actually give the plugin the ability to do HTML or React.
So should I just add another thingy?
Yeah, so right in front of here, here's what we do. You can add multiple code blocks, but we're going to do something else.
Okay.
We'll say if up here, and then comma language after node. That's the other property here. Remember when we, in our manifest, specified languages? That's what that is. So if language is equal to, I think we called it lowercase HTML, then we're returning this. We're returning what we just wrote.
Okay.
And then else, return an empty array. And then let's go back to our manifest really quick. Getting through it. It's not going to take long at all. Manifest, add another language here and call it React. And the value will be lowercase React, just as a key to check. Yep. And then React. And then we'll go back to code.js. Copy and paste all this, and then we'll change our HTML to like a component of some kind. Yep.
And we'll do it as, let's see, if...
Oh, you're going to do it in your else. Sorry. Else if language is equal to React. Perfect. Yep. And then that will be JavaScript.
JavaScript.
Uppercase. This is the Figma.
Oh, it's all.
This is the Figma key for that.
Okay.
And now let's change this code to look like JavaScript.
Episode preview.
Yeah.
And we can do, I don't know, let's just make it a...
Yep. Wow, what a great, yeah. Wow, what a component we made in our component library.
Right.
We're not going to do compose components. We're going to do everything. These could be slot properties where these are paragraphs being passed in, whatever we want to do, right? And then we just, exactly,
We get
title
to do
is
whatever
React.
we want. Title is React.
This can be, we can name it whatever we want, but we'll do React. And now, check this out. When you scroll up a tiny bit above the box model.
Oh, whoops. Let me close this up.
Yeah,
Okay, we got one of these.
We're only writing good code from here on out.
That's it.
So, development. Now this has multiple languages.
Look at
We're
us
getting in there.
go.
Let's look at this. Let's look at what this bug is. Can you make sure there's no bug? Okay, I know what it is. Close that. Deselect, reselect. That should be fine. I think this is a development bug. React. We solved it. We just generated React. It's that easy. Do you even code? There's a bug, I think, in development where we have to just reload it every time.
I mean, this is slick. Like this, it feels good to me because, you know, this is what I would expect to happen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. We have about 15-ish minutes. So
Do we go into Jake mode really quick? You want to do images, or you have something else in mind?
let's do images. Yeah. So
right,
you've
working
got
with
the image.
images.
All right. So we're just gonna swap back this way.
Yeah, so one way to do the old-fashioned way to do images in with the Figma plugin was to actually open up an invisible UI window, fetch the image URL, draw it to an HTML canvas, get the image bytes, ship it back to Figma's plugin API, create a fill and put it in that way. We have a widget API that looks like JSX, which is really cool. And it has all of that wrapped into an image component. So we can actually just do this. So check this out. Like, I can copy this code. We're going to come back here. We're going to go back into our design mode, right? Mm-hmm. And so where are we?
So there's our image URL.
Image URL is right here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do const image node, right? What we're going to do is we're going to call this thing called create node from JSX async.
Okay.
And we have this custom widget API. Widgets are kind of on-canvas nodes that have a state and everything like that. Very React-like. And I'm going to plug this in here. And we're going to hope that this works. And then console.log image.
Probably want to swap these around.
You know what? I don't even think we need that. We'll just
That should
What
come
was
in
it?
at like
What was it?
It should come in at like 600. I don't know what the height will be. It's like
600.
16 by 9.
It'll do like a cover, like image object fill. So
then set it at like 400 or so.
Yeah, it doesn't. It ultimately does not matter at all. So now we're back in design mode, right? So I'm going to run our plugin again. What do we call this? LWJ? Great. Now we're getting an error. Perfect.
Unexpected token.
Shoot. We can't do this because we're not compiling TypeScript. We're not compiling the JSX. We're just using.
Right.
But we have a way around this. Without JSX, huzzah! If there's any Figmates watching, they knew that was coming. So then, well, maybe they did. Depends which Figmate. Is Bursabel watching? If Bursabel's watching, she knew that was coming. Okay. So this is the same thing, except instead of JSX, we're just doing it this way. Now, let's run that again. Okay, do we have an image somewhere? Oh, it's a promise. Oh, wait.
We need to make the map async. It should be okay. We should still be able to do it. Just async it.
Okay. Well, now these are promises, so it's going to skip past. What we should do is
just do a promise.await
let episode promise await all is definitely something we could do that I used to do all the time. And then someone taught me this little trick for going from, and then you just say, we don't even need to map these anymore. What were we mapping? What were we returning? We weren't returning anything. This was more of a for each.
I was doing a for each.
Yeah, okay.
In my heart, I was mapping.
Aren't we all? Hold on, let's see. Oh boy, this would be great if this worked. Oh my gosh. Image on the canvas. So now we've created a new node, and what we actually need to do now is just say, we need to find the placeholder for that instance.
Right.
And we need to just set its fills to be this node's fills, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna just, what is this called? We called this rectangle in the main component. We'll say that this is
just rename it to image or something.
image.
Yeah.
So then what we can do is say, what is our parent component? We got 15 minutes, we're good. Component.
We're killing it, we're doing so good.
So we'll say const image placeholder equals instance.children.find. So this is going to start looking at all the top level children inside of that instance, right?
Okay.
So that's these three right here. So we'll say n, and we'll say n.name is equal to image. So that should just give us that instead of your little handy @0.
Okay.
We're just going to do a find instead of a filter. And then we should be consistent. I'm sorry. Then we should just say image placeholder dot fills equals image dot fills. And then let's see if that works quick. So I'm going to delete this.
Probably need to set the size differently for that to work. You know what? It doesn't matter.
No, because it's going to center it on that thing.
Just do whatever
Yeah.
we want.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. Okay. Look at that. Right? So now we have to automate what I just did manually, which is image.remove. So we create this image using the little handy dandy Figma API. We grab its fills, and then we set it on the instances, thing that we wanted.
Yeah.
So that way it's the same node.
I feel like when you were talking about this earlier, you were like, I don't know if we're gonna have time for images. It's really complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, I see. There's a little bit of like a loop to loop here, but like this is
It's not too bad.
really straightforward.
It's not too bad. And
Yeah.
I honestly haven't used this approach yet. I've just known it's there. So I also wasn't sure if we were going to run into some bugs. So now you don't have any endpoints with like more than one.
Let's swap it out to go back into there. I can do it.
Yeah. Back to you. Great, we got images in there.
This is fun. We should do this. I should do it like this more often. It's really fun to be able to just like throw back and forth with people.
Is it the same schema?
It's the same schema. It's the same data actually. It's just filtered for future or past.
Yeah.
So then if we run this again.
Oh, that's a lot. Okay.
Oh, that's too many. That's
No,
too
no,
many.
no, let's see. Let's see. It's running.
No.
It's run. I mean, the nodes are being.
This was maybe.
How big is it?
It's not that big.
377. Okay. Maybe.
Can I limit these?
Yeah,
Hold
you
on.
can.
I think I have.
Hit cancel. Close the plugin. Yeah.
Why don't we do this? We'll just take. We await the fetch.
Schedule.
We rate the
Just do like a
JSON, and then
slice
we'll-
of like 20
yeah.
or something. Or
Wait, hold on. I can do it like. No. Or schedule
round robin program.
slice.
Yeah, it's like DJing.
Why don't we do 10? 10 is plenty. All right, try that again.
Delete all those.
Ta-da! Get out of here.
Delete that. Oh, what's up, Builder? Oh, what's up, Adam? Yeah, okay, cool.
This is dope.
So we can also manipulate X and Y position on the canvas. Like
okay.
Yeah.
Can we, in 6 minutes, get these to drop into another component that's auto layouted?
Or like a frame? Yeah. Let's
Yeah, because if I took all of these.
Okay. Yeah. So we got to get going. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I'm going to delete these. But what I want is this.
Oh yeah, if we create the auto layout frame, that'll make this a little bit easier.
Yeah, let's not.
You don't even need to scale it because once it's an auto layout, it'll grow based on its children, right? So
Okay,
like,
perfect.
Let's,
So then-
you want to do column or row?
Let's do it like this. We'll have it do like a little wrap.
Okay, let's name it something so that we could just kind of treat it like get node by ID almost.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So great. So we have a preview auto layout. Let's at the very beginning of run design mode. Let's find that node, right? So Figma.currentPage.find all with. Well, it's at the root of the page.
Should be.
Okay, we're going to not use find all with criteria. .children, find. And then we'll loop through all the children at the root and end.name equals previews. And that should just exist. And we're just going to pretend that we know that that's the case. And TypeScript would hate us for doing this, but
It's
that's
okay.
fine.
It's
Contain
okay.
it. Okay, so
Now we have our instance.
yeah, you can actually just do container.append. I think it's append node. Can we go to the docs? What time is it? We got time. Just do append. Just search append child. Okay. Yeah, that works.
So instead of component create instance.
No. We're still creating the instance. Then we're just appending it to. So do container.append child instance. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So we're
and then
just
do I
moving
need to move this one out of its space?
No, that's fine. It's fine.
Is that it?
Yeah.
That's the whole
That's the
thing.
beauty of auto layout. And then.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, look at it go!
And then, I mean, something we could do is on this,
we got to fix our auto layout, but
Well,
look!
yeah, we wrap and then have a max width of like fixed width. We'll add a max of 1200 or something. Doink.
Look at us go.
Now we do
I
it
mean,
for
this is
377. Now we do it for
This
377.
is dope. This immediately
Yeah.
makes me so happy because I was just working on a layout
Yeah.
for myself
And then Shift D.
where a huge amount of the time that I spent
Yeah.
was on dealing with my silly. Oh, look at it.
Right, so we could just inspect. And we're like, oh, we're actually React developers here. And so now when we come through and we start selecting all these, scroll back down.
This is huge.
Donkity,
Like-
donkity, donkity.
This is dope.
Yeah.
So I mean, this makes me want. This alone, this ability to throw instance of a component into an auto layout
Yeah.
will save me days.
Yeah.
Because I do this all the time. I always
Wonderful.
want to mock up, oh, what does
Yeah.
this layout look like? What does this layout look like? And I spend a ton of time copy pasting data so that I have realistic previews.
Yep.
And just being able to come in here and like we don't have enough time, but like the next step would be create a UI so I could choose how many I want.
Yeah, you open up an iframe and you can
Say
just
I
be
want
like,
12 of them, I want 5 of them, whatever.
yeah, you could also paste JSON endpoints into the UI and then search, if it wasn't a static situation. I was just going to show, like, this isn't great for our case, but like, then you come here and you publish, you can add like something here so you publish this to your Figma profile essentially. If you're an org, you can publish it privately to your internal org and distribute it that way. So if you were performing org specific operations with a plugin like this, you can have like
Now
an org
I'm an
plugin.
org. For example, I have like a Learn with Jason org inside of Figma. I pay for Figma.
Yeah.
And so I could publish it so that I don't have to have the code selected. It would just be any project that I have open inside of my org, I'd be able to run.
Yeah,
this
it's
dummy
the
data.
difference between like staging and production.
Yeah.
Like you just have this development or local development and production. Like you could publish this. I mean, the benefit of publishing it is if you had members of your org, they'd all have access to it. Right now, this is only on our machine, right?
Right.
And so you can also do some interesting things in dev mode, like I can come in here, set it as default as an individual, but then org admins can also set plugins to run by default for the entire org. Like a lot of time developers don't like being like, oh, like they don't want to do any of this. They just want it set to be, especially if it's like an org plugin that does everything the org needs.
Right.
So you can set that at an admin level or something. I did not mean to click that, but yeah.
So this is incredible. Like we've got a lot of power here. We've got a
Yeah.
lot of flexibility. I have a million more questions, but we don't have enough time for them.
Yeah.
So for folks who want to go deeper on this, what additional links should we share? Let's
Yeah,
let's
you
do
wanna switch back 'cause
the
you got
switch
some links?
again.
Yeah, so I've got like a FigJam file with a bunch of developer links. That's developer resources. Yeah, it's that one. You can clone that to your own. Like that's one way that we like to kind of share information is published to our community like that. But then there's also like if you go back to the links here that I sent you, like plugin API docs we were just looking at. We also have a plugin samples repository on GitHub, which there's a link to in there. And then I have like I have a work GitHub account with a lot of Figma related stuff, including some of the plugins that I've made. If you want to see some like more powerful plugins and stuff, and use those as I open source everything I build, for the community. And then my personal site is jake.fun if you're interested in kind of like learning more about what I do personally. Just lots of fun web stuff, but
I really like your
my personal GitHub's on there. And lots of little experiments. Web audio is amazing. I do a lot of web audio stuff and like play around
Yes,
with
I'm
that.
actually your website is really fun
My
too.
code
because
pen
it's
has a
like-
ton of stuff too. Like I've got a bunch
Oh
of
yeah,
old code
yeah,
pen
yeah.
things.
That's
on the
will you
web-
pull up your code pen because you have one of the most fun covers I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think
For a certain value of fun, it's also a little unsettling, but like
this is not me. Is it JA? So I started like I started like taking my full name out of all my things. This is my old. Yeah, this was one of my first like fun things. This is like AI chess.
Okay.
That is a not smart AI. It's very silly. This uses your webcam to change music, like based on the color you're holding in front of it.
Oh, wow.
This one is like a big music thing that I did a long time ago. This was kind of the most popular pen I ever did. But yeah,
Nice.
there's a whole bunch of random stuff in here. If you like front end, I do too, and there's a lot of that.
If you like front end, I do too. What a tagline. With that, we are effectively out of time, so I'm going to quickly switch us over and do a shout out. Thank you very much to Netlify and NX for sponsoring this episode. Thank you to Lee from White Coat Captioning for being here to caption. Thank you to Jake and Figma for setting us up in the office today.
course.
And with that, y'all, we are in fabulous shape. This was a lot of fun. I am already just like buzzing with ideas for stuff that I'm going to build
Amazing.
that's going to make my
Good.
life easier in Figma. I hope you are too. Y'all, hope you had a good day. We will see you all next time.